This will be like a short video response to another video that a friend just sent over to me, and it inspired a couple of thoughts that I wanted to share with you on the pitfalls on the path and the spiritual ego. That is such a cunning shapeshifter, because just as we shed one set of robes, the ego likes to clothe itself in a new set, right? More spiritual ones. And so the author of that video was talking about how easy it is to feel superior to other people as we're walking this path, and we seem to be gaining these truths. We are still under the illusion of being a separate self, collecting realizations, and in this regular way of comparing ourselves, which we have been doing our entire lives, we start to feel better than other people in the arena of spirituality. Before, it might have been grades in school, then how much do you make, what job title do you have, and what car do you drive, and then we maybe let go of all of that after this shift towards orienting to spirituality as our primary goal in life, and feeling like, well, now I understand more than you do. And so the irony is not lost on me that some of the points that I'll be making here sort of go against, not really against, but just I think that my intention is really to clarify, because the common goal of us, of humanity right now, of this Sangha, and I don't mean just viewers of this channel, I just mean the world Sangha, all of us that are on the spiritual path, and walking each other home, as Ramdas said. That is one of my absolute most favorite quotes, is to get closer to the truth, and truth is only one. No one religion, no one teacher, no one book or scripture has monopoly on what is true. We are just working towards polishing that mirror to make it clearer and clearer, so that we can see the reflection of the true, unblemished, crystal clear light reflected back to us in form of everything, of the 10,000 things around us, of you and me, of this character that is perfectly imperfect, right? And so a couple of things that I wanted to reflect on was how I've heard in that other message that, well, I see certain spiritual people do this and that, and don't do that. And so whereas the message was about spiritual ego, I think that the speaker, whose name I don't feel that we have to mention here, because it's not a criticism, it's just a clarification of his message, because I think his intentions were certainly good, and I appreciate the message, to heed his warning of falling into his pitfalls, which I am, as I said, almost erring on falling into myself, right, and correcting him. But I really don't mean to do that. I just mean to shine a light on how cunning the ego is of a shapeshifter, right? That we can become spiritual and then judge other people for not being quite as evolved as ourselves. But then, as we catch ourselves doing that, then the ego adapts yet again, and being, oh right, I don't want to be like those spiritual people who feel better than everybody else, and I'm gonna send out a message about not being like that. So try not to be like that. Try to be more welcoming and accepting of others. And it's beautifully meta, because that's what this message inspired me to do, right? Like, I actually felt called to point out the very subtle pitfall in that message, that there is still a me and you, right? As opposed to seeing as everything to be already divinely perfect. Everybody is on their path. Everybody is just a figment of God's mind, of which you are a fractal. And we are essentially all this boundless ocean of love. It's like the saying, already whole. We are already whole in our being. There's our being cannot be added upon to. It cannot grow. It cannot diminish. And yet in this human form, we're always becoming. It's like a mathematical asymptote which approaches a certain value, and yet it will never quite touch it, because being finite which is this contract of a soul as we incarnate as a human, cannot by definition embody the infinite. We are a fractal that holds, contains everything, sort of like a fractal or a hologram. We are a part of, and at the same time the whole of it, and yet we cannot fully be infinity. It's a exquisite paradox, because I suppose that if you try to unpack it with your rational mind, it really does not make any sense whatsoever. We are the whole, and yet we're a part of the whole. But I digress. So coming back to the message, I think that I would like to clarify this message as to not compare ourselves to other people, because the point is to really, the point of non-duality, if we're really talking about non-duality, is to recognize the separation, the illusion of separation starts to thin out. And we know our own inner family systems, the reflection of our parts is something that shines everywhere we see. I see myself in everybody I meet. And so the other spiritual guru that I might perceive being caught in their spiritual ego and saying do this or not do that is a part of me. And it's perfect. That's again the perfection of parts, that there's a sweet confusion about not quite understanding the truth, because that's a whole journey. It's a journey of forgetting the truth so that we can find our way back. And as part of that play, we recognize that that's the entire point. The point is not to arrive. The point is the game. It is the journey. It is the forgetting. It is taking on and trying on different set of robes. The set of robes of being an investment banker or a spiritual guru or a humble monk somewhere in Himalayas. It's not better or worse. That's exactly it. That's through the prism of the ego that evaluates and judges as things as better or worse. It's better to be spreading a message of love as opposed to literally being Hitler. But from the perspective of life itself, neither is better or worse. We're all actors on a stage, and as the curtain falls and we go out to sort of receive our applaud, both the hero and the villain receive the applaud equally well, because we are here to play a part. And so depending on your own path and depending on the times where we find ourselves in our civilization and our planet, you might be an agent of love, a messenger of God's word, and you might feel good about that. But you might equally much be a mafioso or a mobster or a terrorist or just a really greedy, corrupted politician. And this is a truth that's difficult to hear, but it is none better or worse. It is the play of duality, of light and dark, that creates the contrast which allows us as consciousness to grow. So it's fair enough to sort of give hints and pointers as what to watch out for on the path, but I think it's really important to also recognize that everybody you meet is you, and they're going through their path, and they're also reflecting something back to you specifically. If you are coming across them, if you're coming across this video and me specifically, it is not a flux, it is not a coincidence of thanks to the YouTube algorithm. You're literally manifesting me to deliver a message that you want to deliver to yourself. And I'm just this beautiful sock puppet, right? That you're just like talking to yourself, delivering something that a part of you needs to hear. Bashar talks about those permission slips, right? Because essentially all of this game is a game of belief. We have taken this pristine, clear light, and we have started layering a bunch of beliefs, conditioned beliefs on top of it, so that we stop seeing the world as it truly is and we start to see it through our own conditioned lens. And these beliefs, they stick, they really root down deep. And this path becomes about uprooting those beliefs and again seeing ourselves, our fellow human, the world, indeed not just people, not just sentient beings, but the tree, the ocean, the wind, as made out of the same essence that we are, because there is nothing else in existence. There's only consciousness. Consciousness is primary. There is no matter. Matter arises in consciousness. Everything is a refraction of the one light of awareness. And as we strip away those old beliefs, slowly and very often painfully, we begin to see again the capital T truth, which ultimately can only be summarized as love and compassion and non-duality, where there is not two. It is not one, because there is this myriad of form, but it is also not two. So the darkness, the shadow, the repressed stuff, that which we object to, that which we judge, is also God. It is also love. It is also an expression of love. It might be apt to call it a call for love, because as we are afraid, as we are upset and rageful and acting that out in, let's say, unhealthy ways, that too is part of the play. However, it is clear that we have forgotten ourselves, for we would not be afraid or upset if we remembered the truth of our unity, of the safety, of the love, of God's love that is always here. And obviously I don't mean God as an old man in the sky or even Jesus. You can use whatever figure that, as a religious figure. If you're prone to doing that, that's amazing, because they act as a symbol and as a channel, and you can really tune into that energy that is here now as well, available for you to feel Christ's love, if that's something that resonates with you specifically. But it's not about any one person or deity holding you. They're all just yet another refraction of that pure light of love, of awareness that you are. And so this is why this is a journey inwards. Finding that what looks out from behind these eyes is the very same thing, which is a no thing, looking out from behind your eyes. And so we're stripping away those layers of beliefs, of taking ourselves at first to be this mind and body, then the thinker and the doer, and then at some point maybe even the witness and the witness of experience. And then we might have an opening into unity consciousness or God consciousness, and essentially those are all the Buddhas along the way that you have to kill, because that is still not you. In Buddhism, it's talked about the 5 aggregates would make up the false illusion of the self, and one of those is the perception of consciousness, where we take ourselves to be, whether the witness or God consciousness or whatever it is, and that is still enforcing and reifying the sense of there being a self. Because sure enough, you stop taking yourself to be this person, you're suddenly so much more than that, and yet there's still a you, right? So like now you take yourself to be everything, and yet you are not everything, because you are nothing. You do not exist. This dream dreams itself, and it is not even fair to say that you are the dream. You might have uncovered, it might have become your felt sense reality that you are not the dreamer, but you might still take yourself to be the dream in God's mind. But that is what you truly are, is still beyond that. You cannot be labeled, you cannot be touched, because that is the subject of experience. It is awareness being aware of itself, essentially. So this really just keeps going until anatta, until the dissolution of all identity structure, where you no longer identify yourself with anything. And this cannot be forced, this cannot be rushed. This is something that slowly falls away when it's simply no longer needed, because our parts, the stagnant energies that we hold in ourselves, in our body, in our emotional field begin to open up and loosen up and begin to flow again, trusting that which is us. There's no other force in the universe but you. And yet that is that set of beliefs. Remember that we have forgotten just how safe it is. So we have falsely been led to believe that we have to strive, we have to protect, we have to manage, and we have to do so many things to survive in this world, essentially. To feel safe, to feel loved, to feel a sense of belonging, to feel okay. And I believe that to a large extent, this journey is about falling into that's what grace is. Grace is just grace is feeling like you are on a path somewhere towards God, but essentially grace is God pulling you back into Himself, for you to remember just how loved you are and just how safe you've always been. You misunderstood. You have forgotten yourself. But it's not a mistake. You've chosen to, right? Like you've chosen to forget so that you could have this play, so that you could remember again. And that's beautiful. So do not judge, or do judge, right? Because that's my message. Judge if you want. Because that's part of the play, to be able to judge somebody else who is really you. Or to not judge and feel like you're getting it because suddenly you see yourself in that person, you see where they are in their spiritual ego. And so just now there's like a school trip walking by here, and I'm not even sure if you can hear me that well, but they're all me. They're all me. And they might be thinking that I'm a funny guy sitting here recording a video about non-duality, because that's really weird, isn't it? But that's it. It's not that I am more evolved. It might be said that perhaps on some level, I don't know, would it be fair to say that I'm an older soul? What does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Because on some other level, we're all one. There is only one soul, there's only spirit. And when my soul, assuming that it's old, when it grows up, what happens? I become an ascended master and then one. I start all over again, right? Because time doesn't exist. It's just a beautiful, endless flux of light playing with itself, exploring its infinite potential. Because to abide as the primordial void, which holds all potentiality, which never gets to be manifested in form, is to not exist at all. So this is why all of this is being manifested out of that primordial void to be experienced, so that that which does not hold an identity, because there is no, it's so easy to give it human attributes, right? They're like, oh, as the absolute, we're probably just bored, so we're doing this. No, there's nobody there to be bored. This is just its nature. It's to experience itself, it's to know itself, it's to experience and to explore the infinite potential that is inside of that singularity. And yes, it is true that along this path, we first need to turn away. That is the Vedantic path. Turn away from the world, from Maya. Because Maya has gotten us in her grip so hard that we cannot imagine. If you're new to not only this channel, but to non-duality, Advaita Vedanta, or whatever spiritual path you've been following, this is impenetrable. I applaud you if you've gotten this far listening to me, because it probably makes absolute zero sense whatsoever. And that's how deeply caught we are in Maya. And again, that is not better or worse. You know, it's just a journey, right? So if I live in Santander right now, this is Centro Botín in Spain, which is just along the Santiago Compostela, the Camino as it's called, right? Like, which is a pilgrimage, would you say that somebody who's just starting on their pilgrimage worse than somebody who just finished it? It's just a journey. A 5-year-old is not better than a 3-year-old. He is just in a different place on his path, right? And then in his next lifetime, he'll be a 1-year-old again, right? So it really doesn't make sense to compare in this way. But it is true that we need to, we have gotten so lost in Maya that we need to, a lot of us, the first step involves for a lot of us to turn away from the world of experience, to turn away from Maya, to recognize the emptiness inherent in everything. That this character speaking to you right now is empty. This field trip, this monuments, people, grass, trees, birds, everything is empty. This is what's in a lot of traditions is called climbing the mountain. However, as you climb the mountain, you don't want to remain there, because you want to then start to know yourself as the creation. You have touched on the emptiness, which is you. But as it's stated in the Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. Emptiness cannot exist without form. It is in a singularity, holding all potentiality unmanifest. So that potentiality needs to manifest in all of this myriad of forms. And then as we come back down the mountain, then we start to see through Maya. We're still in Maya, but we appreciate her. We appreciate the beauty. It becomes stunningly beautiful to look around myself and to know everything as inherently empty, as part of the dream. Literally, just like the dream at night. And as I look around and I taste the air and the fragrances of blooming trees, and I feel the wind on my skin, and I can touch and feel textures and temperatures, and I can feel all of my subtle emotions arising to no one, it's stunningly beautiful. So you develop a completely different appreciation for what life is for you. And then you can begin to play with Maya in this dance of Leela. And somewhere along the way, this opens up to exactly this, to be a dance. It's no longer a strive. It's no longer a striving. It's not a struggle to figure your life out, to win life, to get somewhere, because you realize there's nowhere to get to. It is all a journey. You are never done. There is no event called awakening where you become an enlightened master living happily ever after. You keep progressing through the different layers of recognition until you arrive at that pure, pristine light, and then you're back into the myriad of forms, enjoying that light. But from that perspective, you actually recognize that all of the path, which might have been heavy and difficult, also led you to precisely this place. And you're not only grateful for the journey getting you there, you actually realize that that was part of the dance. It's like Alan Watts said, if it was all about getting to the destination, then the most beautiful piece of music would just be one note. It would be the final note. That the most exquisite movie would just be the final scene. And it's not. It's the entirety of it that's beautiful. However, we cannot appreciate it in the moment oftentimes because we get lost in the content of experience, losing our awareness of who and what we really are. Just like the author that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, who's this is supposed to be a response to, put really well that I forgot what he said now. perhaps it's inconsequential. It's about I had it and I lost it. And that's it, right? You have it, and it's so similar to how we have a glimpse and then we lose it. How we touch God, we touch ecstasy, we touch bliss, and then we lose it. And we judge it. But it's not about judging it, it's about appreciating the ups and downs. Recognizing that it is that awareness, playing awareness games with itself, of what it's like to forget who we really are, to experience what fear of feeling lost feels like, so that we can experience the sweet fragrance of remembering and coming back home. Without getting lost, you would not be able to come back home, would you? And with that wider perspective, there can even be a sweetness and an appreciation in getting lost. There can be a sweetness and appreciation in forgetting what I was about to say. For clearly, I'm not going anywhere with this. This is a movie, this is a song. At some point, everything becomes art. Even sciences, right? There is no striving to get to anywhere. We don't need to get to Mars. We don't need to save the planet. We don't need to save humanity. The planet will take care of it just fine. And as part of that, we are gonna be involved in all of that too. It is very possible we will become a multiplanetary species, and we will need to take action to save the planet and to help Gaia restore itself, and to help our fellow man get out of poverty and war and this mental field that is so dense right now, so polarized. It is not a teaching of passivity. But from which place are you doing this? Are you doing this from a place of seeing imperfection and brokenness that needs to be fixed? Or are you seeing this from a place of already whole? The one light, perfect, pristine, bending and shifting, pretending and playing to be something else for the sake of exploration and having fun. And so I think the author mentioned the emptiness of that it's very easy as part of that path, as we climb the mountain and we recognize the emptiness and everything. I'll say this in closing. Thank you for being with me. I really enjoyed this exploration with you. That it's easy to become cynical or detached, fall into nihilism even, that, well, if this is all just a dream, inherently empty, inherently inconsequential, there's no goal to anything, that's the collapse. That's the ego death. That's the beginning of the ego death, who needs reason, who needs a goal, who needs a destination, who needs to feel like it matters and what it does matter. And then there's that recognition of emptiness and void, which at first can feel nihilistic and depressing, perhaps even. And that is why it's so important to turn back around. And I think this is what the author really hit the nail on the head, that it's not about being detached and looking at human suffering as if it doesn't matter because it's inherently empty. It is an illusion, which doesn't mean that it's not real. An illusion is something that is real, but it is not what it seems it is, right? So as a lot of people seem to believe, I suppose it's a common belief that, as we die, as we lose somebody, it's a real loss, which it is not, because in consciousness, in the one God's mind, nothing can be lost ever. Nothing can be gained, and nothing can be lost. And that is the highest truth, but that does not exclude being human and actually feeling, not bypassing, but feeling the grief of that loss. That too is part of the play. And at that point we can hold those two simultaneously, and this is where we escape the wheel of samsara and suffering. We do not need to suffer anymore as if it was real, for we know, not intellectually, not conceptually, we feel that we are in this world but not of this world. We know that as we're being crucified like Jesus, it hurts on so many levels. I'm not just talking about the physical level. He's been betrayed, he's been hurt, he's been misunderstood, he's been shunned, he's been killed and tortured. And we feel all of that pain. He's been abandoned even by God himself. He said, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" I'm not a huge Christian, by the way, but those things just really stuck with me from, I suppose, religion class and going to church all these years when I was a kid. And now at a later age, I can really appreciate those stories because they resonate. That even Jesus, Son of God, felt his humanity so deeply, and yet on some level he knew he was free. That's the transformation, that's the transfiguration on the cross, that he could resurrect as the being who carries his scars of the crucifixion, and he felt them deeply, yet he is also transcendent of them because he knows that they are inherently empty, which does not mean that he does not feel compassion for his fellow man. The teaching is about rising above and knowing ourselves as spirit, as God, knowing the inherent emptiness in all of experience so that we can be in it even more fully, right? It's sort of like it's like if you know that this is a game, it's a play of life, and you don't have to take it so seriously. I'm not saying you shouldn't, right? And again, that was my initial message that I was trying to make, that it's not about judging somebody being too lost in Maya, that they shouldn't, they should lighten up, they should recognize the inherent emptiness of all things. No, that is all just a play, and that specific player, that specific fractal of God, who is also you, chooses to lose themselves in this way, to play this game on what seems to me like an even harder level. You know, they're playing on God mode, veteran mode, hard mode, whatever, right? And so I appreciate that. I appreciate people being lost in this, and that's beautiful. And I don't feel like anybody needs saving. Nobody here needs to hear this message and needs to wake up for the sake of humanity. The preference that's here, that society would look better if we all shared this truth, is of this human, is of this persona that feels it would be better for me to be in a world like that. But I'm not sure if consciousness, well, I am in fact sure that consciousness does not hold a preference, does not hold an agenda. It simply loves. It is unconditional love for whatever form it takes, for it is itself. It loves simply itself in whatever form. And it holds no agenda, for there is no preference. The wheel of forgetting and remembering, of going into darkness and into light and into darkness again, just to rediscover the light, that's the whole point. How could it be judging its mechanism which allows for all of this? There is no judgment, there is no preference. There is only love and awareness, loving and exploring itself. So I think I'll end it on this note. This turned out to be a long form video. Let me know if you enjoyed this kind of chat. I certainly did. So thank you for being with me. Drop me a comment. I would love to engage in the discussion, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. That really helps me to grow this channel. I hope to engage with more of you and create a sangha around this teaching, because not that we have to awaken, we don't have to get anywhere. We're already home, guys. This is already it. We're already home. There's nowhere we have to get to. But we need to do something, right? I mean, we're exploring, we're playing, we're having a blast. So let's walk this path together. If you're so inclined, I would love to have you on board and keep each other company.